Hey everybody, this is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and over there is the Shane Vendrell to my Vic Mackey.
Chris. I got nothing.
I have the Shane Vendrell kind of hair thing going on too, a little bit.
Me or you?
We both do.
Oh, anyways. Right. That's fair.
How are you doing tonight, Chris? We before you answer, sorry we missed last week. It was we didn't miss last week. We didn't stream last week. We missed yesterday.
Yeah,
Chris was not feeling well.
Yep.
Despite drunkenly playing Rocket League with me.
Yeah, I started to feel a little bit better around almost showtime, honestly. 7, 8 p.m. somewhere around there, and
I wasn't around at that time, so
yeah, I got my notes started.
My computer was ripped apart. That's what it was.
Let's put it this way: I had done no prep whatsoever during the week because I felt like absolute poo. Still not 100%, but sinuses are pretty clear right now.
Oh, guess what? You're still poo.
I'm still poo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Doom, we have our Fave 5 and Not So Fave 5, or the UnFave 5. Chris, would you like to get us started, or would you like to defer to me?
I'd love to get started. We don't really have any news to share, nothing pertinent since it's off-season.
Yeah, fantasy. It's kind of off-season. A bunch of head coaching interviews are going around. That's
true.
Interesting. I'm a little curious of why everyone wants this Denver defensive coordinator. Like, I mean, they weren't Denver's defense wasn't that great this year, but yeah, okay. Anyways, go ahead. Did you want to start or not?
Yes. I will start. So I have the Fave 5 of the half of the show.
You have the easy part.
Yeah. I just get to sit here and just tell you how much I love these guys, basically. To be clear, for the audience listening / watching at home, I kind of worked my way down the final rankings, or if you will, their fantasy finishes. Definitely wanted to get some value talk in there in terms of guys that weren't necessarily top 3, top 5. But we're going to start with
I was hoping you would.
Yeah, but we're going to start with the top guy, Austin Eckler, the RB1.
Oh, I thought you were going to say me.
No, you do not play running back in the NFL. But keep your dreams alive there, buddy.
One of these days. Can you go into the NFL without having gone to college?
Yeah, it's just an age thing, technically, I think. I don't think anybody's ever done it, but...
I'm older than some head coaches.
Yeah, right.
Is that going to hold me back, Chris?
Yes, severely.
So there are a bunch of ageist assholes in the NFL.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I want younger guys.
Now that we've established that, go ahead, keep going.
Austin Eckler, the RB1. His ADP was 3.5 at the RB3. So, I mean, that math is easy. Roughly the 3rd overall pick, 4th. 3.5 is an average. What?
Oh, that's what pick he was going as. I'm like...
Yep, that's his ADP. That's what pick he was going as.
Middle of the 3rd round. Oh, no. What?
No.
Okay.
Beginning of the 1st.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Scored 312.2 fantasy points in 16 games. Some of these stats I'll throw out will be on a fantasy season basis, so it'll be like a 16-game finish. I actually put both in some instances. We'll get to that later. I included this guy basically because I'm upset that I could not trade him for a first plus in Dynasty. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, Eckler was everything you could have ever hoped for in an early first-round pick and then some. Obviously, if you're a caveman and you play in a non-PPR league, he wouldn't have been nearly as valuable due to his...
Whoa. I don't know if you should be insulting people like that.
What, cavemen? Or the people that play in standard leagues? I don't even call them standard anymore. Well, hey, man. I just think it's silly. Anyway, he wouldn't have been as valuable if you were in a non-PPR league due to his 107 catches on 127 targets. That's the full season. We all know he makes his hay in the receiving game. But with 915 rushing yards, this is the total season, not just 16 games. With 915 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns, second best behind only Jamal Williams, he was more than adequate on the ground. In fact, he scored the most touchdowns out of any player in the last 2 seasons, for your information at home there, folks. Where I think Eckler really shined was in the red zone. He led the league with 130.9 fantasy points scored in the red zone, with 11 of his 13 rushing touchdowns coming from within the 20, aka the red zone, and 6 of them coming from inside the 5. Not bad for a scat back.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Do you remember before the season started that like they were talking about Isaiah Spiller coming in and being like the short yardage guy, and he's going to be the goal line guy and all that? Remember all that?
I do. And I'll get to a little that
manure that got shoveled around a little bit. That was pretty terrible.
Yeah, me and you were pretty high on Eckler, though. I want to say he was at least both of our top 4 backs.
I think it was mainly just because of the receiving work. Like, he's out there.
Oh, for sure.
All the darn time.
But he's got a nose for the end zone, clearly. Speaking of Spiller, I'll get to him in a little bit. I don't see myself investing another top 3 to 4 pick in Eckler. I mean, I hope his ADP drops some. Then I would consider him in the first. Definitely still in the first. But I worry Isaiah Spiller will take some carries and red zone opportunities from him in order for the Chargers to extend his career. But this year showed us what a scoring weapon Eckler is when healthy the whole season, basically.
Yeah.
Really impressed with him.
Isn't he like 28, 27? That's not terrible.
Sounds about right. I'll look it up real quick.
He's 5'8". Wow. I knew he was short, but damn. Anyways,
27.
Is that all you got to say about Eckler?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go on to my least favorite person first. And I kind of sort of went in the order of ADP. They're all more or less first and second round guys. Not all of them, but most of them are. So let's start with the consensus 101 going in drafts last year.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor. Okay, and before I continue, I kind of sort of avoided players that got injured. Like, I know Taylor did, but I'll get to why he's first on the list. I thought about J.K. Dobbins, but that was a lot of injury in there, so I was kind of like, Anyway,
a lot of injury, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's a few guys on here that missed games and everything, but it's more about overall production. Anyways, okay. So Jonathan Taylor, multiple reasons. As a Colts fan, I was looking forward to JT dominating this year, man. Like, like he was good last year. I was looking for him to be great again. But I'm gonna be blaming Frank Reich a little bit on this. The offensive coordinator, Coronado or whatever his name is, I don't really remember. I didn't bother looking it up either. Everyone top to bottom, it wasn't just Matt Ryan's fault. I mean, the offensive line fell apart, and with some good pieces on that offensive line, they still end up being PFF's 12th overall. To somehow they went from 12th in the end of 2021 to 18th this year. I'm not sure how. At one point, they were ranked last, like the worst offensive line in football this year. So they climbed up from the basement to mediocre, and I don't know, man. Anyways, as the consensus 101, like I said, for about JT and the Colts in general, hurt people in multiple ways. Taylor only played in 11 games, so he's the one guy on the list that missed the most games. One guy on my list, that is. But he also got hurt after, so he missed that's 6 weeks, but essentially he missed 7 because the game he got hurt in, he got hurt on the second play of the game. So we'll call it 10 full games that he played. And when he was playing at full strength, he was averaging a flat 11 points per game. That's, for a back that you drafted at the very first pick overall, is supremely disappointing. That would be I believe I have it written down as tied for the 24th best on a average game basis amongst all running backs this year. And that was all running backs are more than 7 games. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, real disappointing. Taylor was outside the top 36 backs. He was outside of the top 36 backs any given week. The 10 weeks that he did play 3 times. So 3 out of the 10 weeks. So 30% of the time, he was not even an RB3. Only twice, if you don't count the week 15 game when she got injured. He was an RB3 only 1 week, so he was a top 36 back, and an RB2 thrice. That's 3. And he finished as a top 5 12 back 4 times this year. That's good. So there was some okay moments to JT, especially once Jeff Saturday took over. I believe the first 2 weeks he was pretty good.
His touches went up a lot once Saturday took over. Yeah. Average touches per game.
Yeah. And he was the RB2 on week 1 and the RB1 in week 10. So it was kind of a shame that he got hurt in week 11 because that was his best week of the year. So there was some definite lows. There were some highs to JT, so that's going to be good looking forward to next year. I'm guessing that he's going to be one of the many running backs going in the second round. I'm thinking that this is the year that receivers start to rise into the first round and maybe a tight end or 2. And then some running backs are going to start falling out of the first round. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of 6 RBs going in the first round, it might be more like 4 or 5. And I think Taylor's going to be one of those guys that fell out. I got to say that it depends on who the head coach / offensive coordinator it is that comes around. Hopefully the Colts are going to be drafting CJ Stroud. I said Justin Stroud because I went to school with a guy named Justin Stroud. Anyways,
there's
really hoping
handful, 3, I'd say, guys that are going to be at the top of the draft in the quarterback position.
There's 1 or 2 guys, and
1 or 2 for you specifically. Okay, or should I say for the Colts specifically? Okay.
Speaking of which, other than that, who else is it than Bryce Young and CJ Stroud?
Well,
Will Levis is like a consolation prize for anyone who doesn't.
What's Stetford or whatever, the Georgia guy? Granted, he's 25 years old, and we don't have to go.
He's also 5'10".
Yeah, I would think you could. We haven't talked any draft at all whatsoever, but just to go down a very short rabbit hole.
You're thinking of Stetson Barrett.
Stetson, thank you. Like the cologne and the cowboy hat. Yeah, he, I don't know, you probably get him in the second.
Is it a hat?
Yeah, Stetson. It's a hat. It's a cowboy hat.
Huh.
It's a type of cowboy hat, if I'm not mistaken, or a brand. Yeah, I think it's a brand. I think it's a brand of cowboy hat.
I need to get
my cowboy days are way behind me. I don't recall.
Oh my god, I forgot you were a cowboy at one point. You were a wannabe cowboy.
I was a poser. I was an absolute. That's not entirely true. I did work some rodeos, so it's not like I didn't. Oh my
god,
dirty.
You did. Oh yeah, my god,
I did. I literally wrangled cattle.
Anyways,
it's so weird to say that. All right, so that wraps it up. But I'm just saying, you could go a different position like a left tackle or a receiver, something that's also sought after. And get this Georgia kid in the second. I don't know. I mean, he's a winner.
I don't know. I'd rather.
Obviously, he had a ton of talent around him. So
you have pick number 4 in the draft. You take a new quarterback and anything else, and I am
what both those guys
fan next year.
What if both those guys are gone?
Then trade back and hope and trade back far enough that you get like Will Levis or something.
Maybe get a vet beforehand, like a Jimmy G, just to play it safe. I mean. I don't think Jimmy G's the same as Matt Ryan.
If you're going to take Jimmy G and
I don't blame you though.
And then use him as a bridge, fine. But other than that, no aging veteran quarterbacks anymore. I'm done with this. I'm done with this shit, man. Like it hasn't worked out. Go young. Look at the long term.
I don't blame you there.
Looking. This season has proven that the Colts have a lot more holes to fill than just quarterback.
Absolutely. I don't blame them. The previous the Rivers season, maybe.
That was good, and they're going to probably lose Bobby Okereke in the off season as well. He's a great inside linebacker.
Their defense and their O-line really has gone down the last season and a half, I'd say.
Yeah, what's your next guy, man?
Let's stop talking Colts. Tony Pollard, the RB7. Reminder at home, folks. Half point PPR.
I figured this was rolling around.
Yeah. ADP of 87 for your information. That's the third pick of the 7th round. That's 7.3. The RB34 ADP. He scored 227.4 fantasy points in 15 games. Pollard was speaking of going more like a zero RB approach maybe in the future. Pollard was one of the best values at the running back position. Period. He's a perfect example of going zero RB and picking up phenomenal value in the mid to late rounds at the running back position. Dallas was one of the best rushing offensive in the league this year. Well, for most of the year, till the end. They ended up the 3rd leading scoring offense, 6th in rushing attempts, and 8th in rushing yards. I think we could expect more of the same with a balanced attack, maybe leaning slightly run heavy next year. They can limit some of those downfield attempts and interceptions. Pollard did outrush Zeke 1,007 yards to 876, despite Zeke getting 38 more carries on the season. Pollard had 39 receptions on 55 targets. Going back to the interceptions and turnovers I just talked about with Dak, I would love to see Dallas maximize Pollard's skill set by throwing to the running backs a little more. It might take a change in offensive coordinator, but that could very well happen depending on what happens in the postseason and the coaching market. And Pollard would excel in that role since he played both wide receiver and running back in college. I think logic says Zeke will only continue to get worse with age and more usage, and Pollard could have an even better year next year. Except, problem is, Pollard is an unrestricted free agent. I thought he still had another year left. His contract's done. And Zeke still has a hefty contract / cap hit. Just looking at the contract makes me sick, honestly. It's just such a horrible
Where did the
mistake.
Cowboys pick this year in the draft?
I don't think they have anybody else's pick, so, bottom 20?
Bottom half.
Definitely bottom half, yeah.
Hometown hero Bijan Robinson, anyone?
Yeah, I'm hoping there's some value at the end of the second at the RB position. I don't necessarily go down that path with my notes here, but the thought had occurred to me, yeah.
And he ain't going in the second. He's going to be going in the first.
Late first. He's an RB, dude. You can get him anywhere. Don't do Zeke was the 4th overall pick. It's dumb. And then you double down by signing him to a ridiculous contract, and then you double down and sign the quarterback to a huge contract. Anyway, in any event, Dallas does have a potential out this offseason with Zeke's contract with a $16,720 cap hit and a $11,860 dead cap hit netting them $4,860,000 in cap room and getting out of from under the contract that lasts through 2026.
Wow.
We could see, yeah, exactly. We could see Zeke take a pay cut, stay in Dallas, and continue his short yardage bang between the tackles role. But who knows at this point? Josh made a great point about the likes of a Bijan Robinson from UT. There's other running backs that are going to be there.
Yeah. I think he's by far the best.
That's basically how I close. There will be tons of value at the RB position. Yeah. For that reason, Pollard's value is up in the air as far as I'm concerned moving forward.
There's teams that need a running back, and Pollard's pretty electric, man.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a matter of he just doesn't come back because he gets the bag. He gets the money elsewhere. Now, I don't see him signing up like a Zeke contract, like 16 mil per or whatever. Maybe more like a Eckler contract, 7.5 mil per, 8 mil.
I was thinking more like maybe 9 per year on average.
Yeah, it just depends on, I mean, they got to pay Dak. So what are you going to do?
Yep.
And
anyways.
And turn around a couple more years, they'll have to pay old Parsons.
Yeah, and they should.
Yep, they should.
I could see Zeke definitely taking a pay cut, and then
I could too.
I bet he does, because he's. I mean, why not? Why go elsewhere and play?
He's not going to. Yeah, and he's not going to get.
I mean, like your chances of winning a Super Bowl are probably best with Dallas. You're going to go to like some team that has 0 chance of winning a Super Bowl, like.
And remember, he held out with 2 years left on his contract, so there might be a little bit of I kind of owe him. You know, I kind of owe him back some.
They did you a solid. You can do the team a solid back.
Yep,
buddy.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of who really needs like a bruising running back versus an electric. Anyways, my next guy up. Speaking of electric running backs, DeAndre Swift. Chris, remember if memory serves correct, I believe we were both big Detroit fans this preseason.
Yep.
And that kind of paid off. Like Goff played pretty good, even when like Amon-Ra St. Brown was not out there like playing for him. Like he made the best of his good matchups that he had. And the one thing is that Swift didn't quite pan out. I mean, I believe Swift was rolled into that Motor City Love I have written down there. Preseason he was my RB12 going at the 208, and that was in my personal rankings. ADP, well, Swift was going as the RB9 at the 112. RB9. Not too far off, but you know, he definitely didn't return that draft capital. He ended up as the RB22 in the season with 11.9 points per game. fantasypros.com is where I got all my data, by the way. So that's
most of mine too.
If we have a little bit different, that's probably what it is. But anyways, yeah, he didn't play in 3 games, but he has 4 games coming back from injury where he had 8 or fewer touches. So he might as well just, you know, like
part-time player is the term that comes to mind for me. Part-time player.
Yeah, I mean, they should have just put him on IR and got him 100% healthy, however long that took. You know, like instead of rolling him back out there and blah blah blah. So 8 or fewer touches, Chris. I gotta say that I need my running backs to touch the ball a little bit more than 8 times. He was like hyper efficient, but then I'd say 4.5 yards per attempt, only 4 times overall this season, isn't being hyper efficient. And those 4.5 to like more than 4.5 yards per attempt was the games that he was, where 2 of them were like before he got injured. So yeah. He did score 8 touchdowns total, so that's not too bad for a guy who only touched the ball 147 times, but it's also not great either, you know? So, and that's probably one of the reasons why he ended up as an RB2 this year, is because of those 8 touchdowns. If he'd only had like 3 or 4,
the usage wasn't there. He had to have the touchdowns to finish as an RB2. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you look at Swift's weekly finishes and the weeks that he is accredited for playing in, that's also counting those games where he barely touched the ball, because he technically played. He was outside the top 36 running backs. He only has 2 out of his 14 outside of the top 36, so that's not terrible. He was an RB2 only 2 weeks on the year, but he was an RB3 in week 1, an RB2 in week 4, the RB3 in week 1,
Okay.
the RB4 in week 2, the RB number 5 on the week in week 13. So he had like, what is that? 4 top 5 finishes in the entire season. So that's good. That's also why he ended so high. His highs were high. His floor was pretty darn low.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he's gonna be doing next year, man? Like, I could see Detroit wanting to maybe try and replace him just because of injury. You know, like.
I think
Like,
two
dude, you're
reasons they might
good,
want to
but-
replace him. And they kind of roll into each other. I think Dan Campbell is going to stick around for a while, and I think he deserves to.
I like what he's been doing.
Absolutely. And I just don't think he's Dan Campbell's kind of back. I think Jamal Williams was his kind of back. Now, Jamal still needs help.
He
Yeah,
needs
absolutely.
lightning to his thunder.
Most NFL teams don't have a 1A guy that's, 30 touches, whatever. But B, also, I worry that DeAndre Swift will never be a 20 touch per game guy.
I worry that he's
like
going
50
to struggle to be a 15.
That's what I was just saying. If I can hit 15, if he can hit 15, I'm pretty happy with that, with his big playability and his efficiency. But with his health concerns, and again, I think Detroit managed the situation well, to the chagrin of fantasy managers. But I just don't know if he could do it, man.
Yeah,
I don't think he can be an Eckler or a CMC that gets the ball in space.
I think they really tried their best with him, and he got hurt again. And then they were just like, "All right, kid. Well, sorry, but you're a little injury prone." So,
and I think they saw some of it coming, and that's why they brought in Jamal. Although they brought in Jamal the year before, right? Yeah.
No, that's true.
Year before? Yeah. I think
Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Like, where do you think he's gonna be going next year? Like. Assuming everything is exactly the same. Maybe they add another wide receiver to the offense or tight end, but assuming they roll with the same running backs.
I mean, I'll answer it this way. Where do I feel comfortable? That's what I was going to say. I'll answer it this way. Where do I feel comfortable taking him? Probably 5th. I
like 5th.
I don't feel comfortable. I think he'll probably go in the 3rd or 4th.
Having said all that,
but I
mean, is there a world where Swift stays healthy the entire year? And
I don't think so.
He is like the RB. He's a top 8 running back. There easily is
because of his talent. Because of his talent, absolutely.
Because of his talent, yes.
And the offensive pieces around him. It's a good offense.
He is. Yeah. It certainly looks like it will be again next year.
Yeah, right. I would hope so.
I can't trust it. I'm right there with you, man. I think a 5th is perfect. Like that's.
I do distinctly remember being lower than consensus. I don't remember where it was. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't find your rankings either. Otherwise, I
should have put them.
I would have included it. But I don't know, man. Yeah, I think 5th is perfect. Like, and probably more like 6th. Then that way, maybe I'd like him more as my RB3 if possible. Like. I don't know if I want to lean on him week in and week out.
Yeah, I'd feel comfortable with him as a flex.
Or if I'm taking Swift in the 5th, I'm probably looking for another running back in the 6th because I cannot lean on Swift,
Yep, and inevitably injuries will probably happen to one of your top 2. That's the way things go.
Well, if Swift is my 2, then I'm
my
next 2 picks are gonna be running backs,
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, what's your next guy, Chris?
Ramondre Stevenson, the RB10 on the season. Yep. ADP at 91.5. That's about 7.3. So 3rd pick of the 7th round, right there with Pollard, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. The RB36. He scored 203.9 fantasy points in 16 games. Another phenomenal value and another pass catching do-it-all back. But with a larger frame than Pollard. Not that Pollard's small. Ramondre was 4th among running backs with 64 receptions on 82 targets. However,
really nice.
Yeah. However, with only 6 total touchdowns, I think it's clear Ramondre was in a limited offense. Good news is the Matt Patricia experiment is over in New England, and there's talk of them seeking out a new quarterback and better weapons for whomever is under center in 2023.
No more McCorkle? Oh.
We'll see. I'm a bit of speculation there, but I think they're done with him.
Jimmy G back to New England, perhaps?
It's a possibility. With only 3 of those 6 touchdowns coming on the ground in the red zone. You would hope to see more red zone scoring opportunities for Ramondre in 2023, since he is a big back who can excel in that role at 6 foot, 230 pounds. I also like Ramondre from a dynasty and long-term perspective, since he was part of a committee at Oklahoma and only played 2 seasons with a limited 2020 due to COVID. He does not have a lot of miles on his tires, only 165 carries in college and 343 carries so far in his 2 NFL seasons. Obviously, the vast majority of those coming in this past season. And he's remained relatively healthy. You got to remember his first year, he definitely came in as the second guy behind Damian Harris. I think
more like the third, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, was James White still there?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it might have been. So, clearly that coin is kind of flipped. He is the guy. I think Damian Harris has proved his limitations in terms of the receiving game. Obviously, he can definitely be a red zone threat. He, back in 2021, he double-digit touchdowns, 14, 16, whatever it was. But I think Ramondre has carved out this role as long as Belichick is the coach. And if they could just raise the level of the offensive talent around him, and particularly at quarterback, I think he could be a really good player next year. We'll see where he goes, because he did have a pretty nice season this year, so obviously it's going to get drafted earlier, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Ramondre Stevenson.
So, I'm sorry, I was watching the collapse of the Jacksonville Jaguars here.
Yeah, jeez.
How do you feel about Damian Pierce and Kevin Harris, and not Damian Pierce, Damian Harris and his brother Kevin.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if they're actually related.
No,
but,
I think they are.
I mean, like, the only reason I'm hesitant on Ramondre Stevenson, I will draft him moving forward like he is the guy, but man, Belichick shenanigans really, like, that's going to definitely drive him down in my rankings next year in preseason.
I mean, maybe a little trepidation for me, but I think the Belichick shenanigans was a problem until it wasn't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, remember, like, back in the day when they had, like, Corey Taylor and, like, Lawrence Maroney, right? Like, those guys were pretty much like the guys.
Well, I think that's because of the talent they had at the running back position. A, they weren't the most talented guys in the world. B, they were limited in certain facets of the game, kind of like Damian Harris, 2021.
Catch the ball.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody expected him to, both in fantasy and in the Patriots coaching room.
And speaking of which, like, a new quarterback maybe doesn't dump the ball off as much
that would worry me more than the shenanigans, I suppose. Yeah, because those receptions really helped.
Okay. That's a lot of catches. I didn't realize that. My next guy up is Alvin Kamara. Kamara is another back who suffered from poor quarterback play and poor offensive output in general. Chris, do you happen to remember where Kamara's ADP was according to Fantasy Pros?
I do not.
He was going
Seventh?
at the 111.
I was going to guess 107.
The RB8.
Into the first.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm like, what in the wild world of sports is that, dude? Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like the writing was on the wall that Kamara wasn't going to be very good this year. But
I think there was some hope for Jameis, and then that just fell apart.
I guess, yeah. I had Kamara going before Swift in my personal rankings. So like mid-second round. I thought I was punishing him there too. It's not that big of a difference, but yeah, it's still, I don't know. When it's all said and done, Kamara finished as the RB18. So, and he was pretty steady. He missed the first 4 weeks. I'm sorry. In the first 4 weeks, he finished as the RB number 47, missed week 2, RB number 37, missed week 4, and then it was at least a top 36 back every week except weeks 12 and 13. But those were against San Francisco and Tampa Bay, who are both good at runs. They're both good run stopping teams. One's probably maybe better than the other. Just kind of depends on which day too, I guess. Other than those aforementioned bad weeks, Carr only had 2 other weeks outside the top 24 in each of those weeks. So the big thing that hurt Kamara's season was only 4 touchdowns the entire year. 3 of those 4 touchdowns came in one game.
What? 3 of them?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he scored 3 of his 4 touchdowns on the year in one game. So great game. Yeah, the rest of them weren't very good.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm going to compare Alvin Kamara's season to an Oreo. Everyone loves the cream filling in the Oreo, but no one really likes that cookie part. So the first 4 weeks were the top cookie of the Oreo, and he averaged 6.2 points per game, and he only played 2 weeks, but still 6.2 points. And weeks 5 through 11, 16.1, the creamy filling. And then in weeks 12 through 18, 9.68 points per game, or the bottom cookie, as I'm calling it. So, yes. Hopefully better days ahead for Alvin Kamara. He's going to need a significant upgrade to a quarterback position. Derek Carr to the Big Easy. That's kind of what I was. That's my bold prediction. Think about it. Like, their offensive line's not that bad. They have receiving weapons.
I think they lost a left or right tackle too, a really good one.
Left tackle to Jacksonville. Taron Armstead.
Oh, he left. Okay.
Taron Armstead left in free agency.
I gotcha. I was thinking injury, but yep.
So they tried to replace him. I don't remember how it fared, but anyways, I think that's a little bit of an upgrade for Derek Carr to go to New Orleans. And not that Michael Thomas is the bee's knees, but Chris Olave looked great when he was on the field this year. Jarvis Landry I could care less about, but there's talent there. Juwan Johnson's doesn't seem to be a terrible tight end.
Fair.
There's talent there, and probably enough to maybe make Derek Carr want to go there.
Why don't they just make Taysom Hill a running back? Well, let's assume Kamara will still be there, to your point. Make Taysom your second running back and your whatever. He's not a tight end. Anyway, I got off subject. I'm sorry. He's not a tight end.
Taysom Hill is just going to be, he's the gadget. He's the Swiss Army knife of, he's like, he has a pair of scissors that pops out of him, and he has a little can opener that pops out of him, and he can catch the ball, he can run a touchdown,
da 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 da,
a knife on him, weirdly.
Da 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 da, inspect.
Right. Go gadget scissors.
Hey, 4 touchdowns. Whoa. It's so crazy. Hey, to be fair, he's a talented guy and he can help the offense, I guess is all I was getting at.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, like, a significant upgrade at quarterback would be great. I don't think they're going to be drafting high enough to actually get a young one, or one that's going to be like a.
They moved up for Olave. I don't think they had to give up another first, but they moved up for Olave. I remember that.
I don't.
Maybe I should.
Anyways,
I should have the draft order pulled up.
I know they have a draft pick, but I don't think they're going to be high enough to have a day one starter and a quarterback. So why not take Derek Carr? Give him some
11th. Oh, that's last year.
They're in cap hell. That's right. So maybe not. Anyways, meanwhile, back to the drawing board with the New Orleans Saints. Anyways, what's your second to last guy or last guy? I don't remember.
Second to last, I have Kenneth Walker. I'm going to finish with 2 rookies here. Kenneth Walker, the RB19, ADP of 103.5. That's the 7th pick of the 8th round, approximately. The RB38. He scored 176.1 fantasy points in 14 games. Got a little bit banged up there. Arguably the best rookie running back of 2022, thanks in large part to the injured ACL of Breece Hall and being on a much better offense than the Texans' Dameon Pierce. Walker was a stud who, lo and behold, can catch the football.
Weird. It's like we were talking about that in the preseason, Chris.
Right? He didn't
he didn't do it in college doesn't mean that he can't.
Amen. He didn't set the world on fire with his 2.3 targets and 1.8 receptions per game, but in my recollection, Seattle doesn't throw to their backs very much. Nonetheless,
not as much as they should, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Nonetheless, with a healthy ankle and with Rashad Penny out of the way, hopefully in 2023 and beyond, Walker can add to those numbers on top of his rushing prowess. Speaking of which, Walker was 12th in rushing yards and had 9 rushing touchdowns in 2022, 7 of which came in the red zone. Good enough for 9th best. That would be 9th best in red zone touchdowns for running backs.
Nice.
Seattle was generally middle of the road-ish in both rushing and passing attempts and in passing and versus rushing yards. Pretty nice balance, actually. Now, contrary to Ramondre from earlier, Kenneth Walker was used a ton in college, so he has a few more miles on his proverbial tires. He had 480 carries in college.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
So Kenneth Walker has proverbial tires, and Ramondre Stevenson has real tires. Are you saying Ramondre Stevenson's a car?
The Chevy Ramondre? I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Nice.
Kenneth Walker
Sorry.
had 480 carries, most of which came in his last year when he transferred to Michigan State. 480, it's quite a few. From a dynasty perspective, though, he is still probably a top 3 back since he is still on his rookie contract, obviously, and has shown a ton of talent. It remains to be seen how good Seattle will be offensively moving forward, but hey, they sure surprised the heck out of everybody this year. So I'm not anticipating a change at QB. They weren't very good today, but Kenneth Walker is still going to be highly sought after, probably an RB1.
Yeah, Gino wasn't that good down the stretch, but
That's fair. He was still solid, but no, he wasn't throwing 2 or 3 touchdowns a game. And
I feel like everyone caught on to the Geno Smith shtick, and they're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. I just don't know if they'll have the opportunity to grab another guy, although they do have the 5th overall pick because of the Russell trade.
That blew up in Denver's face.
Hey, they might grab a QB, and that would definitely, depending on the said QB, that could change the value of Walker moving forward. But either way, I think he's going to be solid. Probably an RB1 if I had to go and put that out there.
I would definitely. I could see him going in the 2nd or 3rd, probably more like the very beginning of the 3rd next year.
Yeah,
he's probably going to go way higher, but that's where I'd like to draft him. Just sitting here on January 14th.
Well, you've mentioned multiple times in the last couple of weeks about, and even tonight, about going a little wide receiver heavy in the beginning of the draft, and a tight end or 2.
Yeah, but literally only 2. Anyways,
yeah.
AJ Dillon is my next guy. I have to admit, I definitely drank the AJ Dillon Kool-Aid. That doesn't sound good. I thought Rodgers was coming into the season woefully prepared, and he kind of looked like he was. Low on receiving weapons, which at times he was. And I thought that it was going to lead into a heavy run attack. Aaron Jones, the Lightning, Quadzilla, the Thunder. Preseason, I had Dillon as my 23 going at the 509, while Dillon's ADP was mid-5th and RB24. I feel like, and Dillon actually finished as the RB25 in the season, but it was
he turned it on a little bit at the end there, if I recall.
Yeah. And really, if memory serves correct, I really don't. It's hard to remember 4 months ago, but I feel like I put AJ Dillon that low just to hedge my bets. You know, like, I was like, well, maybe what if he doesn't get all the work that I'm thinking that he does. You know, but I took him as like an RB2 in a league.
I think he was going to get the work until he started performing so inefficiently.
Yeah.
And they had to pull back the carries a little bit.
Anyways, so Dillon was the 10th best running back in week 1. Cool. And finishes on RB3 3 other times. Unfortunately, he finished outside the RB3 range 6 other weeks. And had 5 weeks where he was an RB3. So, like, it wasn't very good. Like an RB3 when you were drafting him as an RB2. And Chris, yep. I call that he is the minority shareholder of a running back by committee, and that's exactly what he is.
Mm-hmm.
I also like it was also that thing of, Aaron Jones is hurt a lot, and I think he played in every single game this year.
I drink that Kool-Aid too. I was like, don't get me wrong, Jones is the more talented player, clearly.
Definitely.
But I think they wanted to save Jones for, maybe a postseason run or just save him for his career. I think he just signed a contract, if I'm not mistaken. And give the ball to AJ.
A year or 2 ago.
Yeah, and give the ball to a very capable backup in Dillon. And, of course, the complementary style. Bigger back versus a guy in space, etc.
I think the Packers were having a real hard time getting going.
Yep.
Like,
offense in general, O-line. Mm-hmm.
Their O-line was banged up going into the season and was throughout the season. Anyways, I to sum it all up, Dillon, he had 4 great weeks, 2 weeks were okay, and pretty much every other week he either hurt or killed your fantasy team. So I mean, looking forward to him. Like he's kind of more of a higher handcuff to Aaron Jones. Like maybe think of what um like kind of what Tony Pollard was this year. Like you
What
said,
we thought he
Pollard
was
went
going to
in, like
be coming into the season.
yeah. Well, like Pollard went in like the 7th. You said, right?
Yeah, 7 point something, 7.3.
Yeah. So maybe that's what where Dylan should go next year, like a handcuff, but maybe in a pinch if you really had to use him, like he might actually do okay for you.
Yeah, he'd be a
Kind
fine
of
dart
guy.
throw too. Yeah. But
Yeah.
not at that ADP.
But he's also there too.
last
Like
year.
he's also there, in case Aaron Jones gets hurt. And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's kind of how I view AJ Dillon.
Yep.
There's the upsides there, but it's all kind of injury related to Aaron Jones.
Tied to Aaron Jones' health. Yeah.
Health.
Yeah, like you mentioned, week 1, very good, very good. Top 10, I believe you said. And then it was not until week 12 on he was good again. So you're talking week 2 through 11. Man. But again, he did finish solid.
Just murdered you.
Yeah, but he did finish solid.
But I mean, but at that point, you weren't using him again because he had burned you so bad.
I bet some people had dropped him, especially in 10-team leagues. Well,
I dropped him in a couple of 12s because I was just like, dude, you're bad. Like,
where did I have him at? He might have been a 12-teamer. Anyway. All right.
I actually went out of order, so I lied about my ADP thing. Sorry. I just noticed that. Anyways, who's your last guy, Chris?
My last guy, as I mentioned, I was going to finish with 2 rookies. Tyler Algier finished as the RB30, so a top 36 guy there. ADP was 166. That's the 8th pick of the 13th round, RB52. He scored 137.9 fantasy points in 15 games. I wanted to include another rookie runner who seems to be a great value coming out of 2022. Algier was great in his rookie campaign, eclipsing 1,000 rushing yards on a mediocre to bad offense. I say mediocre because they were actually, yeah, I know, but they were actually middle of the road in points scored and tops in rushing. They were first in rushing attempts and third in rushing yards. Algier had a very nice 4.93 yards per carry, and the Falcons were 4th with a 4.9 yards per attempt, illustrating an overachieving offensive line, commitment to the run, and efficient runners. Algier's drawbacks are wildly apparent, though. First, as mentioned, the Falcons were a bad football team, especially offensively with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, a defensive-minded head coach, and key injury to their best receiving weapon, Kyle Pitts, though they weren't very good with him either. Another drawback was the presence of Cordero Patterson in the backfield, which plays into the third drawback, receptions. Algier had only 16 receptions in 2022 and a 51% snap share. I believe both of these can go up exponentially with Patterson reaching 32 years old and on the final year of his contract, with a potential out this offseason. And Algier can catch the ball. He had 46 career receptions in college at BYU.
I was just looking that up. I was like,
all right, way ahead of you.
But I actually thought it was actually my memory is like, I don't remember him catching the ball all that much in college, but apparently he did.
46 is solid, and vast majority of those came in his, I assume, senior year, because I'm pretty sure he was a 4-year guy.
Last 2 years.
Last 2 years. And you got to give the Falcons a little bit of credit. They did have Cordero Patterson in the backfield. Like, he's literally kind of a running back receiver, special teams guy. Like, he's great after the catch. So, I get it. So I think given a productive offseason where Atlanta addresses the quarterback position, thereby a better offensive balance with healthy and more experienced pass catchers in Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and Cordero Patterson is either gone or relegated to a special teams role, Algier could be even better value and a shoe-in for an RB2 in 2023.
Speaking of quarterbacks on the move, I mean, Atlanta, they need a quarterback.
Yep, they do.
Unless they're gonna do some sort of mammoth trade to trade up.
Well, didn't they try to roll out Ritter? I think they finally did at the end. He was hurt for most of the year.
I don't remember him being all that great, but
he likes to run around a little bit. I know that. That's about all I can remember at this time. But it's not Marcus Mariota.
I had such high hopes for him too.
I would hope they get an offensive coordinator that's, just offensively minded, because I think they're retaining their head coach. His name just escaped me. Arthur Smith. Very defensive minded, and they weren't that bad on defense. And again,
surprisingly competent.
Surprisingly competent, and they are very committed to the run, and they ran pretty efficiently to the points that I made.
I guess
so.
Ritter wasn't terrible.
It was all at the end of the season after the fact, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who was watching.
They might roll. They're probably going to keep him and see what they can do with them.
That's what I'm getting at. They're picking 8th.
There could be a bridge quarterback.
Yeah, they're picking 8th overall. Otherwise, yeah, exactly, a veteran. Look at a veteran. There are a lot of veterans going to be available at the quarterback position.
Yeah, there's going to be, the deck is going to get shuffled rather thoroughly this offseason.
Yep.
My last guy is Cam Akers. Not a big surprise. This is a guy, he was for some reason going mid-4th round, and we were both very anti Cam Akers.
Amen. Yep.
Preseason. RB20 off the board, and Cam Akers actually ended as the RB33. That was mainly because of the last third of the season. We'll get to that in a second. But like I said, I buried Cam Akers.
Ditto. I
had him at the 905, like RB41. Closer to his actual finish in ADP, so suck at ADP. But I never expected Cam Akers to go that low. But look at the guys like James Robinson, same injury, but at slightly different times of the season. Perhaps sports medicine has actually progressed a little bit, and where the Achilles injury isn't a death nail for a player's career. Let's hope for future players' sake, though. That is for future players, and maybe Cam Akers just came back way too soon from that Achilles injury.
I think so.
Like by the time by the end of the season, when he was actually playing okay, it was closer to 2 years at that point. Anyways, Akers, he only missed a couple of games, and I think those were the games that he actually got benched. Before his benching, Akers was averaging only 4.118 points per game through the first 5 weeks, never finishing as better than the RB21 on the week. So, yeah. Then he got back on the field in week 9, was even worse. And he averaged only 3.08 points from weeks 9 to 12. Mm-hmm. And what's weird is when the Rams actually started falling apart, their schedule got a little easier, and at least when it comes to opponents' run defenses over the last 6 weeks, the Rams faced Seattle twice, Las Vegas, who was not good against the run, Green Bay, who was actually not very good against the run this year, and a declining Denver run defense.
Yeah, they were getting a little worse. They were getting a little worse, Denver. I was going to say the opposite, but you're right. They were getting worse.
But over that span, Cam Akers averaged 15.85 points per game, and he never had a weekly finish lower than the 27th best RB on the week. So, and he had an RB.
Give him credit where credit's due.
In there too.
Yeah.
So like, the last third of the season was good, but it was also against pretty bad run defenses.
And 3 touchdowns came in one game. On one hand, give him credit where credit is due. On the other hand,
3 touchdowns came in one game. Really?
Yeah, the Denver game. On the ground.
Okay. Oh, that's
touchdowns.
Right. Yeah. So. I hate to say I told you all, but I told you Cam wouldn't be all that. Like a lot of these backs, though, it was a struggling offense. The Rams are probably sitting on that. Are probably sitting on that throne of crap after a completely awful, wasted season after winning the Super Bowl. Like, just awful. It wasn't just injuries either. Even when the team was healthy, they weren't very good. Chris, how do you feel about the Rams moving forward into 2023?
Well, speaking of the news we kind of glossed over, McVay is going to be back. Stafford's
that's good.
They're going to retain. Stafford's going to be back.
Sounds like it.
I don't want to sit here and sing the praises of McVay too darn much, but he's a very, very good head coach. He's a smart guy. He's one of the brightest minds in the game. I think with that almost alone, but also a darn good quarterback, I think they can turn it around. Maybe not next year and be the Rams they were of 2021, but be respectable on offense, compete for a playoff spot, and then of course the coming years like a 2024 and etc. Yeah, I think they can get back. Running backs come and go. You can plug somebody in there, whether it's Akers or a young guy. Cup, I assume,
Maybe a
is
veteran.
they sewed up Cup for several years.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they can turn it around.
Yeah, I think we'll know very early on in this offseason what this team is going to do, and with McVay coming back, I think they're going to try and get back to their 2021 form, and they'll probably bring in They'll probably try and bring in some receiving weapons, one way or the other.
And their run game was pretty good in 21. Like felt like they shared the load a little.
They need to beef that up a little bit. They'll probably do that.
O-line, obviously,
I don't know. I think they only have like 3 or 4.
I don't know if they have to end up trading one of those big contract numbers on the defensive side of the ball, like a Jalen Ramsey or I'm blanking, Aaron Donald, or lose one of them to retirement.
I think Aaron Donald will retire before he lets himself get traded.
I thought he signed a 2-year extension.
He was already talking about retiring
was.
before this past season, and I think if he comes back, he'd be like, I'm coming back to play for you. If you trade me, I'll just retire again.
Yeah.
Or I'll just actually retire.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald ain't that old either, so that's weird that he's...
I think he was a 4-year guy in college, though. So he came in at 24 years old. He's about to hit 10 years. Yeah, no. I think he's just kind of one of those guys that doesn't want to put his real life in any jeopardy with injuries. He wants to have a career and a life after football, I suppose, is the impression I get.
I'm sure he will.
And he probably don't want to stick around for a rebuild, but that's what they're going to have to do.
He's 31, I guess, so it's not a spring chicken.
No spring chicken at defensive tackle / defensive end. Yeah. I think that's why McVay was thinking about hanging it up for a year or so. He wasn't going to want to be around for a rebuild, but now he is. Now he is.
Well, oops. I don't know if he's gonna be around for a rebuild. I think he's gonna come back and for
a reload.
One last hoorah, and then he's gonna go because he's like, no, screw this. I'm not gonna be around for a... Like, have you seen my head coaching record? I'm not tarnishing that with a rebuild. Screw that.
I think he had a lot of hand in the personnel decisions, but then again, I don't know. Approach it differently this time. Don't give away all your first round picks. I know it got him a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I know it got him a Super Bowl. You can't. Like, I would die for a Super Bowl for my hometown team or whatever, but it hurts your future. I think that's those a couple of factors there is what really both where Aaron Donald and McVay and Stafford probably were like, oh man, I don't know.
The Rams are gonna fall on hard times very soon. I just don't see them coming out of this.
I think McVay's back for the long run, if you will, 3-5 years.
I think in 3 years from now they're gonna be let me put it this way. I think in 2 years from now they're gonna be 2 or 3 years. They're gonna be like a 3-14 team.
Oh God.
It's going to get bad. It's going to get bad quick. It's not going to be a gradual decline. It's going to be like this year only. It's going to look a lot worse.
I think McVay can turn it around. Not necessarily next year. I think they can be reasonably competitive next year, but I think moving forward, I think they'll be better than... I disagree. I'll put it that way.
They don't have any draft capital, and
it's true.
And they're probably close to being in salary cap hell as well. So...
That's why I was mentioning Ramsey and Donald.
Aaron Donald.
They could be gone. They could get a pick for him.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah. Chris, I think we should button it up.
Yeah.
We have been amazing fantasy football. We will be back hopefully on Friday, as long as illnesses don't befall us again. And that we'll be doing at least a couple more shows. And then we'll probably take a break for the off season because, there's not a lot to talk about in fantasy football. We don't get paid to do this. This is our hobby.
Yep. Inevitably, draft time will roll around, and we'll get the itch to do a couple shows about draft stuff.
We'll probably do like a month, before and after around the draft and cover free agency and all that. And after that, just we'll take another break again. Cool.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you next week.
Hasta luego.